Hello VC, another fat bearded man talking about records here, but you can call me Headley. This is a special episode I'm going to be doing. I've threatened this for a while. I've shown a couple of records by this band previously in videos, and I thought that I'd go through, and some people showed some interest, so I thought that I would do a bit of a rundown of the albums by this band that I have. The band in question is Calexico. Now, I know they're bigger in Europe than they are in America, so there's probably quite a few people over there in the States who actually haven't heard of this band. So first of all, here we go. There's a little tribute to Grandma's Handbag, Dean. Here we go. If you haven't checked out Dean's channel, he's an Antipodean chum from down under. He produces wonderful videos, and he always produces his records from Grandma's Handbag. So in a tribute to him, I've also got Grandma's little helper today is San Pellegrino sparkling mineral water. So very Italian. Okay, so check out Dean's channel. So, what is in my bag of tricks here? So, this Calexico bag holds all of Calexico's records. But first of all, who are Calexico? Calexico are basically two people, Joey Burns and John Convertino. They got together in the early 90s, and they joined a band called Giant Sand. Hal Gelb's outfit. This is a collection called Selections circa 1990 to 2000, which is a very good place to start. A very good place to begin. And it basically covers 1990 to 2000, which is the period that Joey Burns and John Convertino were with the band. And as we will find out, they went on to other things. While with Hal Gelb's Giant Sand, they also did a side project of the Friends of Dean Martinez. This is an album of theirs called The Shadow of Your Smile, which, yes, it is that standard song. Friends of Dean Martinez were originally called Friends of Dean Martin, until I understand that the Dean Martin estate complained. It is basically instrumental, lounge country. So it's lounge core, I suppose, with added pedal steel guitar, and it's some lovely stuff. They've got a lovely version of All the Pretty Horses on here, and Misty. The version of Misty is beautiful. Anyway, so they only did a couple of albums with Friends of Dean Martinez, and then in 1996 they released their first album. This is it. This is Spoke, and originally released in 96 in Germany, and it would be re-released in the US the next year. This is their debut album. And there we go, some nice imagery. They were actually, at this point, they were called Spoke, although this says Calexico up here, which was added later. This is a later pressing. I think the initial run was actually only CDs. And they were called Spoke, and then I understand that they were about to go and do a radio show, and someone said, "Oh, you know, there's a band called Spoke." So they quickly had to think about changing their name, and they changed their name to Calexico. And Calexico, for those of you who don't know, is a city on the California-Mexico border. It's on the other side of the border to Mexicali, as in Mexicali Rose. And so they felt that it summed up to some extent their sound, that kind of borderland Americana. So this is their first album, and it's a lo-fi affair. There's not much going on. Oh, I should really say what their sound is, really. So their sound is a kind of an alternative country with mariachi sounds, with Tex-Mex, jazz elements, and sort of Ennio Morricone soundtrack stuff. So this is kind of proto-Calexico, this. so their second album, I've shown this before, Backlight, 1998, released on Quarter Stick Records in the States, and over here on City Slang. And this is this is the first album I heard by them, and it's more of the same. The better production. It's less lo-fi than Spoke. This is more like a soundtrack to an imaginary movie, something like a sort of, or a book by Cormac McCarthy, if you're familiar with his writings. Yeah, there are some wonderful tunes on here, like where are the songs? There they are. Yeah, so you got The Ride, Missing, Trigger. Those are all sort of songs. The rest are instrumentals, and it is a lovely, 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 lovely album. So there you go. That's the Backlight. Their third album. This is Hot Rail. This was also re-released, I think, in the States with a different cover with a guy with a welding mask. So this, again, it's that blending of that sort of alternative country, mariachi sounds, Ennio Morricone. This has probably got their first kind of single, really. A Ballad of Cable Hogue on it. I've not seen the film. There's a film called that. Maybe I should see it, see if it bears any relationship. So yeah, there's far more elements of sort of almost free jazz on this. So there's kind of some bits that are a bit sort of Miles Davis almost, but through a kind of a weird Americana kind of lens. And yeah, they're starting, clearly because of their sound, this blending of American and Mexican, they're starting to kind of politically talk about the issues with borderland security and things like that. Well, not borderland security, but the issues that are faced by people trying to get into the US.
The flow is flooding of urban settlers panning through rivers running dry. Numbers roll on in, smiling, a lottery grin. A sadness blurs the eye. It's just a matter of time in the moving on.
Perhaps more prevalent on their next album, Feast of Wire. This was released in 2003. Again, it's very much the same kind of format, really, of what they've been known to do. This sort of mixture of songs and instrumentals, the blending all kinds of different sounds. We've got more Latin, Cuban rhythms coming into this. Some great tracks on here. Quattro, The World Drifts In, Black Heart, Not Even Stevie Nicks, which is a kind of an acoustic number. Across the Wire as well, which again that talks about that borderland issue. What's on the inside? Oh yeah, that's rather nice, isn't it? The artwork is done by a guy called Victor Gastelum, and he, as you can probably see from the previous couple of albums, he produced a very startling kind of image that kind of really works and connects with their music.
Kisses his brother on the back of the head. Looks to the north as he starts to get up. His brother still sleepy, grumbles it's not light yet.
Their next album, Garden Ruin, you can see already there's a big change in the artwork for this. I think this gatefold's really boring inside, yes. And this is a bit of a departure for them. This is clearly Calexico starting to kind of look in a different direction. They've dropped a lot of their previous style. This is the first album that is entirely song based. There's no instrumentals on this. I think, no, I am right. There's heavier guitars on this, louder guitars. There are still tunes like Rocker and Cruel that hark back to the earlier sounds that they had, but then equally songs like Bisbee Blue and Letter to Bowie Knife are far more kind of rock pop orientated. So a bit of a change for them. I remember when this came out, and to be honest, I mean, I was looking forward to it. They're one of those bands that for me, I'm always looking forward to the next release, and we'll get it as soon as it comes out. And I must say I was a little bit disappointed with this. I suppose because that wasn't what I was looking for in Calexico. I was wanting that kind of widescreen film soundtrack kind of thing. And this is not that. But in hindsight, looking back, it's a pretty damn good album. And actually it's an interesting change of pace for them.
In the ink of the pie, red and clean through the night. Mark my words upon the front page, set my vision straight. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late, it's too late, too late, too late.
Now, after that, oh, got the wrong one there. Oh, put that one away. This is Carried to Dust. And as you can see, we've got Victor Gastelum's artwork back on this, which very much shows a return to the types of albums they released before the Feast of... No, hang on, what's it called? Before Garden Ruin, yes. And yeah, we get more instrumentals back in here, but then some wonderful songs as well. Man-Made Lake, the news about William. There's a song, they opened with a song called Victor Jara's Hands. I showed a Victor Jara album. He was a Chilean teacher, playwright, actor, folk singer, who was killed by Augusto Pinochet, close friend of Margaret Thatcher. Horrible, nasty man. Horrible, nasty woman. Let's not get political. Anyway, so, yeah, a real return to form with Carried to Dust. As you can see, similar to their previous records in style and sound.
Rolling into the fields of thorn. Although we couldn't see a thing that night, the stars in their slowness and their slowness took us by surprise.
Okay, the one I gave you a glimpse of is Algiers. So they released this in 2012. Now this is, again, a bit of a departure. It's kind of embracing almost like a world music sound, and they're looking around. There's more Latin sounds as they've done before, sort of Cuban. Algiers is called Algiers, not because of the capital of Algeria, but actually an area of New Orleans where they recorded some of this album. I'm sure those of you in New Orleans know that. And yeah, it's a more mature sounding album. It is the sort of album, almost you can imagine it being a bit of a coffee table album, if you know what I mean about that. It's one of those sort of albums that the spreadsheet magazines will do an article on, and everyone will go out and buy it, and it will be the toast of the town. And this actually was the first record they recorded on Anti in the States. Again, it's still city slang over here. The rest of the stuff was released on Quarter Stick in the States. So it is a change for them, and a more mature sound, but some great tunes on here. Epic, maybe on Monday, which was released as a single. Yeah, a very, very, very good album.
Leaning on the ground, arms reaching out, hoping for a chance to start.
This was released in 2015, and this is Edge of the Sun. Actually, I don't know who's done the artwork for these ones. Oh, I should have found that out, shouldn't I? Okay, yeah, again, this takes that idea from Algiers, that kind of more world music. I don't mean world music in... Well, no, I do. It sounds like they're drawing influences from all over the place, mostly Latin America. But there's a group on here from Greece that guest on here as well. This is actually a special edition with an extra disc. It's one of those ones that's what you've got. On one side you've got the tracks, and on the other side it's completely blank. But there is a bit of an etching in there. You can see out the window. Yeah, have a look around my room. There you go. Yeah, what's on there? I can't really tell. Oh, I can. Oh, it's a kind of a wolf type thing. Can you see it? There. Anyway, yeah, I'll put that away later. So that's yeah, much of the same, a more mature sound, all these Latin sounds and rhythms. For Lisa, it's got a guest vocal on the extra edition with Eric Burden doing a few tunes. Adding his vocals to one of the tracks. So there you go. Eric Burden from The Animals. I know Lisa would be interested in that.
Won't bring your eyes. Idle hands are the devil's playthings. Now the world starts to fall. Moon never rises. Stars don't shine. Walking through the darkness until these days of sorrow pass on by.
So that was Calexico. That was actually quicker than I thought it was going to be. I've rattled through it. If anyone's got any questions, I'm going to probably put a little bit of probably will, if you'll have already seen, a little bit of clips of some of the tunes from various albums. I'm doing that because I know that they have a very kind of lax attitude towards piracy. They encourage people to record their shows and exchange their music. Obviously not recorded music, but yeah. And if you go to, I think it's called archive.org. If it isn't, I'll put it in here. And there's a load of live shows buy them that you can actually download. There's also a website, which again I will put the link to down below, where you can download various live recordings by the band. And yeah, so Calexico, probably one of my favourite bands. A band that have developed over the sort of over 20 years now since they've kind of been releasing stuff. So there you go. I hope that's of interest to someone out there. Yeah, so oh, if you look over here, I'm not going to bother. I was going to think about doing a follow-up where I do a sort of an extra video, but these are some of the non-official releases that they've released themselves, mostly live. This one, Spiritoso, is with a live symphony orchestra, which is absolutely cracking, and that's a live one of their latest. That's Toolbox is good. It's just instrumentals. It's almost like bits of things they're working on to put on an album, but they don't. And they sort of develop the sounds from there. So yeah, there you go. So they have a good kind of policy of doing this, actually, of producing a lot of extra material, which is great for a collector if you can find them and if you can afford them. Anyway, there you go. I'm starting to ramble, so that's probably a time for me to say bye bye for now.